The previous most famous person in the world, named Tommy Cash, was born in 1940. Growing up in rural Arkansas, he always dreamed of making it big as a country singer, and he eventually released 4 songs that broke the top 20. That's a pretty decent career, unless your older brother happens to be Johnny Cash. Tommy would always live in the shadow of the Man in Black, and it wasn't easy. One of his earliest singles was called I Didn't Walk the Line.
No, I didn't walk the line, and you're no longer mine.
But perhaps there are greater indignities than being Johnny Cash's kid brother. For instance, on August 30th, 2024, Paper Magazine ran an article called How Tommy Cash Made the Sex Olympics Happen. Less than 2 weeks later, Tommy was dead. Am I saying that Estonian rapper Tommy Cash inadvertently killed the country music singer Tommy Cash through sheer embarrassment? Well, we can't rule it out. Now, other Matt, Belinkie, who writes and produces these videos, and I weren't sure if we were doing Eurovision videos at all this season. I'm busy raising my new baby in the middle of historic wildfires that threaten to destroy my entire city, and Belinkie's catching up on the One Piece manga ahead of new episodes of the anime, so we're both pretty busy dudes. But on December 7th, Tommy Cash debuted the first music video for his Eurovision contender.
Espresso Macchiato, 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 por favore.
Here's the deal. When someone releases a Eurovision music video that is an homage to an experimental film by Danish director Jürgen Leith starring Andy Warhol, well, we gotta get involved. This music video is the Overthinking It equivalent of shining the bat signal in the sky. So I'm Batman. Sorry, I'm Matt Rather. And this is Overthinking Eurovision. First off, we just wanted to let you know that this season of Overthinking Eurovision is going to be a little bit different. We're doing just a couple of deep dives, and then we're going to start working on a stupidly long video that covers all 37 countries. And if you want to help us put it together, join our Discord by emailing eurovision@overthinkingit.com. And please subscribe to this channel so we can one day fulfill our dream of attending VidCon and meeting Dan the Diamond Minecart. Okay, here we go. Let's see how long this script is. Well, the Estonian Tommy Cash's Spotify bio begins, born in '91, on the last year of the Soviet Union, Tommy Cash experienced a blend of the Baltic ghetto and the lingering Russian heritage whilst growing up. Notably, this bio doesn't mention the word Estonia at all. Tommy's father is Russian, and he grew up in a poor, mostly Russian neighborhood in Tallinn. His closest musical collaborators are the Russian band Little Big. In 2015, he did a web series with Little Big called American Russians.
Let's become professional gangster rap superstars.
It's a great idea.
But I want to make something clear. Tommy is not a Putin apologist. His mother is Ukrainian, and in 2022, he sold one of his oil paintings to raise money for a war relief charity. By the way, I know what you're saying. Wait, he paints? Trust me, he does everything. We'll get there. And Little Big, the Russian band he collaborated with, are as anti-Putin as it gets. And that web series notwithstanding, Tommy doesn't describe himself as Russian. He prefers the term post-Soviet, which shows up in almost every profile of him. Post-Soviet, post-Soviet, post-Soviet. Don't think of Cash like the First Order, longing to restore the empire to its former glory. Think of him like Ray, growing up in the shadow of these broken star destroyers, trying to piece together something new from the wreckage. And this identity serves 2 important purposes for Cash. First, Estonia's Russian minority hasn't always had an easy relationship with the rest of the country. If you don't believe me, just Google Bronze Knight. That's Knight without a K. Knight with the K is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Anyway, here's historian Micah Wolf talking about the 1990s. Estonian nationalists refused to conceive of their country as a binational or bicultural one, and instead labeled the Russophone population as a minority, immigrants, settlers, aliens, or non-citizens. Tommy found a way around this problem by redefining himself as a third thing, sort of sanitizing his Russianness. Take a look at this photo. Cash is doing the Slav squat meme with legendary venture capital tech bro Ben Horowitz, Estonian president Tomas Hendrik Ilves, and the president's teenage daughter. Apparently, the president of Estonia actually suggested this pose, which is pretty striking because it's associated with the gopnik subculture that Estonians haven't always embraced. That's the power of Tommy Cash's apolitical post-Soviet-ness.
It's never political. It's anti-political.
But even more importantly, post-Soviet was a popular aesthetic in the mid-2010s. It's a mixture of Eastern European streetwear, Western luxury brands, and maybe an ironic hammer and sickle every once in a while. For example, here's a photo of Tommy standing on a tank while wearing a $10,000 outfit. In 2017, Vogue asked, "Has the commercialization of Russian and Eastern European fashion gone too far?" That article specifically cites Cash as one of the trendsetters.
Guess who's back? I've been there mixed with my long brown hair and my big white lips.
This is Guess Who's Back, Tommy's first music video from 2013. The first CD he ever bought was Eminem, so maybe the title was an homage. Cash is rapping in English with an exaggerated Slavic accent, and he's showing us an extra grungy, extra sexy vision of the Wild East. This was not music for Estonians, and this is one of the most impressive things about Tommy Cash. From the very beginning, when he was still working as a waiter, he had a plan to bypass Estonia entirely on his path to superstardom. This is what he was saying in 2015, way before he was famous. Cash explains the fact that all his lyrics are in English by his desire to work abroad. An audience of 1 million or so is categorically not enough for him.
I'm gonna be the biggest artist coming from Eastern Europe.
In fact, Tommy isn't even comfortable expressing himself in Estonian. At the SD Lowell 2025 press conference in February, someone asked him a question in English, and you could see the tension drain from his body.
I'm so relieved to talk in English finally.
As GQ put it in 2018, Tommy Cash makes Estonian rap for the world.
Food I eat so spicy, so spicy.
Cash once said his central creative theme is escapism, and in those early days, the escapism was quite literally a desire to escape.
Stuck in this dump when I should be in Miami.
But as Cash continued to make videos, his concept of escapism evolved into creating whole new worlds. Cash really seemed to find his voice in 2016 with Win a Lotto. Instead of sticking to the post-Soviet grunge aesthetic, he decided to do something highly NSFW and highly WTF. Now look, a couple years back, our video about Let 3 was reported for being too explicit, so I'm not sure we can actually show you Win a Lotto. Just imagine a naked woman with Tommy Cash's face superimposed between her legs, and that's a start.
Too sexy, please don't do it!
Sex never seems too far from Cash's mind. In an interview with Crack magazine, he cited two early influences. First came internet porn, and then came art, particularly the films of art house provocateurs like Gaspar Noé and Lars von Trier. Those two directors were infamous for pushing the boundaries of sex on film. That movie poster is as unsettling as Smile 2 for me. Oh god, it was in 3D? Hard pass. Now, Cash would often need to be bonked with the horny stick in the coming years.
Everywhere I look, something reminds me of her.
And all you need to know about the aforementioned Sex Olympics video is that Cash uploaded the uncensored version to Pornhub. A word of warning, once you have witnessed the fencing competition, you cannot unwitness it. But I think Cash's best videos are the ones that don't rely on sex to keep your attention. In 2018, Cash found a bunch of amputee and disabled dancers and put them in an abandoned elephant enclosure at an old zoo. The treadmill shot is worth calling out here because it's possible that some of our younger viewers don't remember OK Go. Here It Goes Again was not just a music video, it was a milestone in the history of the internet. Produced on a shoestring budget by a relatively unknown band, it was a viral sensation that won the Grammy Award for Best Music Video in 2007, eating the Red Hot Chili Peppers for lunch and murdering the Killers. So what the treadmills say to me is that Cash wants to be the new OK Go. Every video is going to be something that compels you to stop clicking and lean forward. As The Guardian put it in 2017, Cash has a preternatural understanding of how art works in a hyper-connected digital world. He operates between sincerity and satire, stupidity and cleverness, because he knows that in a world where people consume content at a gluttonous rate, you need to do more than simply satisfy someone. You need to confuse, bewilder, and leave a puff of smoke. Here's something interesting we noticed about Tommy. His visuals seem a lot more thought out than his lyrics. Remember the 2018 video with the amputees? That song was called, well, you know, YouTube won't let us say what it was called, but it was approximately Cute Little Kitty Cat, Money, Weed, which even the interviewer for Days notes is a super cliche title. When Tommy is asked what the song is about, he replies, "You know, I don't even remember. I can't really tell you. It's a vibe. The most important thing is the vibe. It's the music itself. I'm not a storyteller type of rapper." It's not that Cash doesn't care about quality. Cute Little Kitty Cat, Money, Weed was produced by A.G. Cook from PC Music, one of the hottest names in the business. But what we have here is a rapper who seems to care a lot more about the visuals than he does about the words he's rapping. So maybe it's not surprising that as Tommy's career evolved, he kept reaching beyond music into the world of fashion. In 2018, Cash became a muse for menswear designer Rick Owens. He provided the soundtrack for Owen's show at Paris Fashion Week and even walked the runway himself in a, quote, deconstructed beige tank. In early 2019, the two men had a joint exhibition at the prestigious Kumu Art Museum in Tallinn. This may seem like a radical new direction for Tommy, but he actually attended art college for a while before dropping out. "I've wanted to stretch my hands into the art world since I was really young, back when I was just doing street stuff, way before I started rapping. But the galleries I approached kept telling me, 'No, you're not a name in the art world, you're just a rapper.' Okay, Tommy, this is your big shot to show people your creative vision. Let's see what you came up with." And that's one of the few pieces that we can show you. Cash's favorite work from the show was a clear box filled with his... You know what? Never mind what it was filled with. Moving on. In 2021, Tommy Cash teamed up with perhaps his favorite brand ever, Adidas.
Too broke for Versace, but all my stripes are matching.
For reasons that remain mysterious, he requested they create the world's longest pair of shoes for him. And in the same year, he released a collection with fashion house Maison Margiela, which Vogue dubbed the weirdest merch yet. The offerings included slippers that look like bread and a vacuum-packed bag of ramen noodles. And then there's Cash's hobby. Since 2022, he has been attending fashion shows around the world in elaborate costumes. He dressed as a baby with someone pushing him in a stroller. He dressed as a dinner table covered with food. He crocheted a onesie for himself and wore this very disturbing muscle suit.
We all remember when he showed up for that thing dressed like a mime, riding a big tricycle. Remember that?
No.
Oh, this guy.
True story. Other Matt texted me a month ago to tell me he was writing a piece on an Estonian singer. I asked him who, and he just sent me this photo of Tommy Cash at Paris Fashion Week, seated next to the rapper Tyga and the singer Avril Lavigne. "He's the bed," he said. It's hard to know the meaning of this performance art. Is Cash satirizing the fashion world or paying tribute to it? Even he doesn't seem sure. I have those two sides in me, one that hates the fashion world and the other that's very interested in it. It's like the good side and the bad side always fighting with each other. So what do we make of Tommy Cash's career? There are some themes that run through his work, like post-Soviet identity and being a weird horn dog, but his biggest trademark is simply constant change. In 2018, he said, 80% of artists try to repeat their success by trying the same techniques or same sounds, but as he sees it, evolve or be extinct. That's kind of what artists should do, you know?
I feel like very bad for artists who had their big song. Everyone is like, yo, you had this song, where is the same song?
I think the real key to understanding Tommy Cash is his self-given nickname, Kanye East. Note that he gave himself this nickname before Kanye spiraled into literal Nazism. Check out what it is about Kanye that Tommy Cash idolizes. He influenced so many people in such a short time, and he does the most difficult thing, which is recreating himself. This guy has recreated himself like 5, 6, 7 times. Perhaps Kanye actually recreated himself like one too many times. Anyway, Tommy's measure of an artist is versatility. He doesn't want to be the kind of artist who's known for one thing. He wants to be able to do everything. And apparently, everything includes Eurovision.
You know, we're going to Eurovision.
Oh, word?
I have to get there, but we're almost there, you know.
But why Eurovision? Some artists, like Joost Klein, dreamed of going to Eurovision when they were kids. This is not true of Tommy Cash. Here's him in 2015.
Планируешь ехать на Евровидение от Эстонии?
Не, пипец. Меня вообще предлагали там, давай, иди, но это вообще такая жесть, Евровидение. Мои родители смотрят каждый год, но это такое говно.
So what changed? Well, look at who Tommy collaborates with. His musical BFFs, Little Big, were all set to take Eurovision by storm before the 2020 contest was cancelled. And in September 2023, Eurovision runner-up Kerja released his first post-Liverpool single, It's Crazy, It's Party. Tommy is the featured artist.
Hey Kerja, you wanna party with me?
And who was the cutest couple at Paris Fashion Week in January 2025? It's Tommy and Joost Klein. Apparently, Joost now does have money for Paris. By November 2024, it seemed like Tommy was all in. The Estilal Update Twitter account quoted Tommy as saying, "I want to demolish at Eurovision." But wait, is that really what he said? Because if you watch the embedded video, the subtitle actually says, "I want to demolish Eurovision," which is a little different. Consider this, both Kerja and Joost didn't have the greatest Eurovision experiences. Kerja won the televote by a mile, but still got crushed by Lorene's Panini press. And Joost, well, you know.
Ik zou bijna zeggen, de EBU, maar dat zeg ik nu ook.
So if those two guys inspired Tommy to go to Eurovision, his intentions may not be entirely love, love, peace, peace.
Joost Klein can't win. Kerja can't win. We have Tommy. If you wanna Eurovision, there's only one guy.
In a January interview, Tommy seemed to confirm the idea that he was going to Eurovision out of spite. I'm pretty much doing this to avenge my friends from last year. I was really against it at first because, like, I'm already such a solid artist, you know? So it's like, why? But then again, why not, right? I mean, Kanye ran for president, right? Tommy, here's a little constructive criticism. Stop comparing yourself to Kanye West. Just trust me. Also, Kanye received only 60,000 votes out of 160 million. So for that reason and others, he's really not someone you want to emulate. But later in the same interview, Tommy had some warm and fuzzy things to say about Eurovision, remembering what a huge hit Wild Dances was when he was a kid. He ended by promising, "We're gonna bring it back to its glory." So Tommy's position is one that seems pretty common among Eurovision fans. He loves the idea of Eurovision, but hates what it's become. And he's coming to disrupt Eurovision just like he disrupted all those fashion shows. Imagine Martin Oosterdal's face superimposed on Avril Lavigne, and maybe that's what Tommy's going for.
Sometimes I can look like I'm the bad guy, but I'm still doing it like for the good cause, for the better cause.
So, finally, we're ready to discuss Espresso Macchiato, the second espresso-themed hit song of 2024. It's co-written by Johannes Naukarinen, who was also one of the producers of Cha Cha Cha, but it has a bit of a different vibe. Now, most Eurovision artists want their song to be the ultimate expression of themselves and their nations. Ollie Alexander said he wanted to fly the flag for the UK in the gayest way possible. Joost described his song as 100% Dutch. Tommy, on the other hand...
No stresso, no stresso, no need to be depresso.
Just to be clear, that's not Estonian, that's Super Mario Brothers.
Are you tired of paying too much for plumbing? Mamma mia!
Espresso Macchiato does not represent traditional Estonian music, and Cash's persona here is as far away from post-Soviet as you can get. Although that doesn't mean it's not based on personal experience.
My first job was as a server in a coffee spot, just bringing coffees and foods. The worst customer is the customer who thinks that he's over the worker.
Maybe the character he's playing here is that worst customer, a pretentious blowhard who can't stop talking about how important he is.
Me like like to fly privati with 24 carati.
In the past, we've been hesitant to label Eurovision songs as joke entries. Even No Rules from last year, although silly, had a heartfelt message. But Espresso Macchiato really does feel like a joke entry, at least at first glance. Foreshadowing. And that feels like part of Tommy's plan to make the EBU pay. First of all, the playful stereotype turns the idea of Eurovision as a cultural showcase upside down. I'm sure it's not uncommon for a country to send a song that doesn't represent its native music. There was a stretch when Cyprus kept sending Shakira songs. But that's different from sending a song mocking another country. The only Eurovision song we could dig up like that was France's L'amour à la française from 2007. The lead singer pretended to be a British tourist reminiscing about a love affair with a French girl, and he sings in a mix of languages that Wikipedia helpfully describes as franglais.
I remember une jolie demoiselle, sur la semaine où la tour Eiffel.
Espresso Macchiato gives Italy that sort of gentle ribbing. Luckily, the Italians are known for being a thick-skinned people who aren't at all sick of the constant stereotypes.
What about the accents? Is it too much? Too much? It's perfect! Wahoo!
On February 19th, the vice president of the Italian Senate posted, whoever insults Italy must stay out of the Eurovision Song Contest. And he wasn't the only one talking about it.
Espresso Macchiato infarcita di luoghi comuni e stereotipi sull'Italia.
There was one lyric in particular that a lot of Italians were offended by.
That's why I'm sweating like a mafioso.
So when I was a kid growing up, the Mafia was an evil organization roughly analogous to the Decepticons. You might fight the Decepticons on the playground, but you didn't stay up at night worrying that the Decepticons would kill your father. But in Italy, that was unfortunately a very real possibility.
E sulla mafia, scusate, veramente non c'è proprio da scherzare né da fare riferimenti, perché c'è gente che è morta e muore per la mafia.
Over 700 Italians were killed by the Mafia in 1991 alone. Murders have gone down in recent years, but the Mafia is still a massive problem. Only 4 days before Estilao, Italian police arrested 181 people in a massive crackdown. So Espresso Macchiato immediately turned into a small diplomatic headache. Actually, maybe more of a venti-sized headache. But beyond all that, this song is purposely campy in a way that the EBU must hate. About 15 years ago, Eurovision reintroduced the jury vote to make sure silly novelty songs didn't win. The EBU wants the modern contest to be seen as a place where stars are born and hits are made. If Tommy can win with a true gimmick song, it'll conjure up old stereotypes about Eurovision being a musical sideshow. And he's the perfect guy to do it because of his reputation as a notorious prankster. In a lot of ways, Tommy reminds us of Rambo Amadeus, who represented Montenegro in 2012. First of all, they're both musicians with performance art tendencies. Here's Rambo at an alternative rock festival using 12 concrete mixers to rattle around a bunch of actual rocks. They both had a sneering disdain for Eurovision. Rambo famously described it as turbofolk, which he defined as a cacophony of all tastes and smells bound together in a single sound draft that has the task of satisfying the broadest tastes and the lowest passions.
Eurovizija je turbofolk.
Groteska. To je kič.
And when these artists eventually decided to go to Eurovision anyway, they did it with songs that seemed like a meta-commentary on the contest itself.
Neuro, I got no ambition for high position in the competition with air condition.
Rambo gave us Euro Neuro, a spoken word piece on the monetary policy of the Eurozone. But there's a big difference between these two. Rambo, who was born in 1963, didn't have Tommy's intuitive grasp of Gen Z culture and social media, so he couldn't get people to rally around his oddball song, which didn't even come close to making the finals. Tommy is going to do much, much better, because he knows how to be weird and cool at the same time. As the Estonian socialite Anu Sagim put it, he can wrap media and internet culture around his little finger with the utmost elegance, while twirling it with a charming smile. And that brings us back to the bat signal. We started thinking about Tommy Cash back in December, once we realized what this music video reminded us of. 66 Scenes from America was a 1982 documentary by Danish director Jørgen Leith. It's a series of disconnected shots taken all over the country. Some just show buildings or landscapes, while others have people performing everyday tasks. It has a de Tocqueville quality to it. We're seeing America through the eyes of an outsider. The longest scene in the movie, and the only celebrity featured, is Andy Warhol, eating a Burger King hamburger. Now, you might think that this homage is just a cute Easter egg some film school art director came up with, but listen to what Tommy says about his inspiration for the song.
Jood kohvi esimese asjana hommikul, onju. Ma teen seda sama. Nagu kohvi ühendab meid üle terve maailma ja ma loodan, et mu lugu teeb seda sama.
Coffee is a shared experience everyone can relate to. Now, compare that to something Andy Warhol wrote in 1975.
America started the tradition where the richest consumers buy essentially the same things as the poorest. You can be watching TV and see the Coca-Cola, and you know that the president drinks Coca-Cola, Liz Taylor drinks Coca-Cola, and just think, you can drink Coca-Cola too. A Coke is a Coke, and no amount of money can get you a better Coke than the one the bum on the corner is drinking. That was my best Andy Warhol. You get what you pay for. Look at Tommy's Estee Lauder performance. He's a rich blowhard in a suit surrounded by bodyguards, and he's not just drinking coffee, he's drinking coffee from a paper cup. It's democratizing, in exactly the way Andy Warhol eating a Burger King hamburger is democratizing.
I'll have the Big Mac, please.
Great joy.
The Estonian public broadcaster interviewed an Estonian living in Italy about the song's reception there, and she commented on the paper cup. It's drunk in a fast food cup. It's not really related to the Italian lifestyle. Most Italians never drink it like that. But having Tommy hold a Lavazza mug would have destroyed the point of the song. I think he was directly inspired by Warhol's idea of the universality of cheap, mass-produced products. Now, maybe you think I'm stretching. Unlike us, Tommy Cash doesn't always come off as an overthinker.
And I literally lit the cigarettes, and she was smoking through her private parts, and that changed my world.
What makes me believe he even knows who Andy Warhol is? Oh, I don't know, maybe the fact that when he was touring the United States, Tommy actually visited Andy's grave in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I relate to Andy's ideas a lot. He tapped consumerism so early, it's just unbelievable. I'm a walking brand under the creative direction and control of an artist. Murakami, Koons, Warhol, or even Dali all became brands. For me, it's all a product. So let's zoom out a little to look at how Andy Warhol inspired Tommy's whole career. Andy's first big artistic innovation was erasing the distinction between product and art. In 1964, Warhol teamed up with other major pop artists to open American Supermarket, filling a New York gallery with shelves of replica food, checkout counters, even music playing through speakers. All the art was for sale, and the artists signed their mass-produced replicas. And that act of transforming brands into art and back again was itself the true art. Warhol would have loved what happened to 66 Scenes from America in 2019 when Burger King repackaged it as a Super Bowl ad. Andy saw no problem with selling out. He appropriated whatever he wanted from popular culture and used it to turn himself into a brand to sell right back. Andrew Warhol Jr. became Andy Warhol, just as Tomasz Tomamets became the post-Soviet icon Tommy Cash. So it's not a surprise that Tommy is a big fan.
I think our product is good. It's quality. We take a lot of time with videos. It's like a proper brand.
So that brings us to Estee Lauder 2025, which was held on February 15th. Tommy stuck to the basic attire from the Andy Warhol music video, but now that he's standing up, we can see that he has serious BTE, big tie energy. As an American, this outfit immediately reminded me of Donald Trump, or as the FBI now insists I call him, Dear Leader. Trump loves the blue suit and red tie combo, and he is infamous for the length of those ties. Now, we were not the only ones to make this association. The ESC Norway YouTube channel did a 20-minute video about how Espresso Macchiato is an anti-Trump song, down to the last detail. We enjoyed the video, and we welcome all the overthinking Eurovision we can get, but we don't think this is about Trump. Throughout his career, Tommy has said repeatedly he wants to avoid political stances like the plague. Actually, I'm really anti-political. I don't believe in politics. For me, It's not important. I don't take any stand. As an artist, it's dangerous to take any political side. I deal with escapism. Seldom have I seen anyone so passionate about not having an opinion.
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
But you know what Tommy is known for? Brand hacking. In 2022, he posted a Photoshop of himself on a sofa made of bread. It could have easily gone unnoticed by everyone but his followers, but Tommy said, "So IKEA told me if we get 10,000 comments under this post, they will release the loafa. Let's show them that we need this for real." Dozens of news outlets pounced on the story. Eventually, someone reached IKEA and confirmed that they've never even talked to Tommy and have no intention of making the loafa. But Tommy got his 10,000 comments. What I'm saying is that it would be very off-brand for Tommy to make a song about Trump.
Oh no, I'm not brave enough for politics.
But it would be extremely on-brand of him to remind people of Trump just enough to get a ton of free publicity. I think what probably happened is that the outfit was inspired by what Warhol was wearing, but stretching the tie was an intentional choice, and it's already paying off. In terms of performance, the Warhol video was calm and deadpan, his complete lack of energy contrasting with the bouncy music. On stage, Tommy takes it in the opposite direction.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
In the press conference, Tommy was asked about the dance and he described it in an interesting way.
Teha mitte võib-olla koreograafia, vaid karakteri omane way.
It also doesn't hurt that the dance was like catnip for TikTok. The live performance featured backup dancers playing the role of security guards. Their beefed-up muscles reminded us of Tommy's Paris Fashion Week outfit, as well as his oil painting. In an interview, Tommy talked about wanting to keep things minimal.
Et Marina Abramovitš, selline kunstnik kunagi, tema kunst on hästi minimaalne, ja ta ütles, et kõige raskem on teha kunsti 4 asjaga, et ongi siin laval sa näed ka.
So you can add choreography to the list of Tommy Cash's many talents. But you know what I personally would not put on that list? Opera. This was not a strong vocal performance, and for like 10 minutes we thought Tommy had seriously miscalculated. See, the top 3 songs of the night were going to compete in a super final round that would be entirely determined by the public. If Tommy made it to the super final, he was guaranteed a victory. It would be a Bryan Cranston wins the Emmy after the Breaking Bad finale level of anticlimax. But in order to get to that super final, Tommy would have to finish in the top 3, and that would be determined by 50% televoting and 50% jury. And it seemed completely possible that the jury was going to sink him.
It doesn't even sound like a song. He's not really singing, is he?
Something similar happened in Estonia way back in 2003. In the national final that year, the band Vanilla Ninja absolutely dominated the televote with their song Club Kung Fu. But can I just briefly say that ninja are from Japan and kung fu is from China, so this combo doesn't make any sense? Another thing that didn't make any sense was that the televote was entirely meaningless. The selection was 100% up to a jury, and they put Vanilla Ninja dead last. On the bright side, the girls did receive a boombox that played MP3 CDs, and being literal teenagers, they were probably pretty stoked about it. So in 2003, the professional jury was wildly out of step with the public. In 2025, Tommy Cash won the jury vote. He didn't just skate by, he won it, which even seemed to surprise him.
Ma alguses arvasin, et žüriid täiesti ei anna mulle üldse punkte.
So what happened? One theory is that juries are strongly biased towards commercially successful artists like Tommy. Look what happened at Eurovision 2 years ago. Sure, Loreen was artistic, but so was Blanca Paloma from Spain. But Loreen was a chart-topping diva, and Blanca's musical career was so short that her biography on the official Eurovision website was only 3 sentences long. And one of those sentences was, as a child, Blanca raised a duck in her bathtub. The longer I stare at this sentence, the more questions I have. Did the duck just hang out when she needed to take a bath? Interestingly, the Estonian jury was recently tweaked to make it more populist. In 2024, the new head of Eesti Laul said, "In the past, we had lecturers from very famous music colleges as far away as America, but we realized that although they can analyze a song from a musical technical point of view, they may not have knowledge of the competition where the song is going." So the jury isn't there anymore to decide the best song, they're there to decide the best Eurovision song. In the end, I think Tommy was so popular that the jury wasn't brave enough to stand in his way, even if they had doubts about his performance. Plus, he had Kärja standing by his side wearing a Vote for Tommy t-shirt. That's like Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala, except in this case it actually worked. As predicted, Tommy Cash absolutely stomped in the superfinal, receiving nearly 10 times as many votes as the second-place artist. Someone on Twitter pointed out that if Tommy Cash were a political party, that many votes would have won him 6 seats in Parliament. Shh, don't give him any ideas. After Tommy's victory, he was practically giggling with excitement about what he had planned.
Ja me hakkame selle kallal töötama, et juba järgmine nädal näete asju, mis hakkavad juhtuma.
And we were ready for anything. Like, if Tommy Cash had secretly filmed an Espresso Macchiato music video in the Vatican by disguising himself as an altar boy, we would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. What we did not expect is that 5 days after Tommy was selected to go to Eurovision, he released a song with Joost entitled United by Music, which is the Eurovision slogan.
I want to fly to Kiev and go to Moscow.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
For us, this brand new song to overthink was like finding out a restaurant has your favorite dessert after you've already eaten the 40-ounce porterhouse. Yes, you have to order it, you're going to do your best to eat every bite, but you're only human. So here's the plan. Belinky is going to make a special bonus video just about United by Music. Click on the link up in the corner to check it out. The long-awaited Espresso Macchiato music video was released on March 16th, and Belinky was there at 9 a.m. like a kid on Christmas morning. Now, the underthinking it take on this video is, wow, the Severance marketing has finally gone too far. The mildly thinking take is, oh yeah, the Espresso Macchiato drink is a combination of coffee and milk. Tommy is acting that out, mixing the bitter brown coffee with the sweet blonde milk to make one unified whole. This is just a symbolic version of the process he demonstrated in the Andy Warhol preview video. But the overthinking it take is to drop your own coffee cup like Chaz Palminteri at the end of The Usual Suspects, staring at the bulletin board as all the details suddenly fall into place. Because Tommy Cash's entire career is about blending opposites together. There's the United by Music video, which features a person dressed in white and a person dressed in black, seen from overhead, forming a circle like a cup of espresso macchiato. There's his art show, The Pure and the Damned, which Metal Magazine described as opposing worlds of vibrant kitsch and monochrome brutalism. His work is full of heteromachismo, but he also rapped, "You're my toy, be a girl or a boy." He calls himself Kanye East, a fusion between two very different cultures. In 2020, he was asked if he was an angel or a devil, and he replied,
I'm their kid.
He then compared himself to Anakin Skywalker, the ultimate combination of the light side and the dark side. Tommy is always searching for a synthesis between fashion and music, art and commerce. He's a luxury fashion shoot on a rusted-out tank, a horse going through a McDonald's drive-thru, 2 paintings of himself as a roided-up monster and as a pregnant waif. He sees 2 oppositional things, and he needs to blend them together. And if you want to understand why, just look at the post-Soviet world that he grew up in. Anthropologist Francisco Martinez writes, young people in Estonia have their own memory of the 1990s, which is distinctly different from the other generations. They remember playing in playgrounds next to Volga taxis, wearing clothes that came with Swedish aid packages, seeing the construction of the first shopping malls, eating their first burger at McDonald's, listening to the Scorpions on the radio, watching films on VHS cassettes, and MacGyver and Nirvana concerts on TV. In other words, you merely ordered the espresso macchiato. I was born in it, molded by it. That was Bane, by the way. That was my Bane voice. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the song about coffee, sung by the Italian guy from Lady and the Tramp, actually seems to be a deeply personal and meaningful statement about growing up in a multicultural melting pot. And according to musicologist Matthias Pudzirny, who wrote a paper called never mind what it was called, Tommy's obsession with reinventing himself might be a direct expression of that unique environment. In the end, it seems that his music, videos, and style, in an original and perhaps not even intended way, tell a story about post-Soviet lifestyle as being, in many central ways, very similar or even prototypical to today's post-digital cultural phenomena of mashups and remixes, cultural hacking, and forms of plagiarism as an art form. Tommy basically said the same thing, with many less parentheticals, at his Eesti Laul press conference.
Asi ei ole rahas, asi ei ole kaugelt rahas ja ma olen seda aastaid teinud, mis mängu me hakkame mängima. Ma räägin siis TikToki mängust, Instagrami mängust, YouTube'i mängust ja see kisub väga põnevaks.
Here's a good example. In the original draft of this script, during the section about the Italian stereotypes, we were going to show a clip of Lionfield Music, two Italian friends who are internet famous for upholding the honor of their great nation. But Tommy Cash got there before we did.
No, I love Italy.
Son of a bitch. He stole my line.
You know what's better than trolling Italy for the headlines? Trolling Italy for the headlines and still somehow having Italy give you 12 points, or however they say it in their language. 12 points. I don't know. It's a tricky balancing act, but we wouldn't bet against it happening.
Reality can be whatever I want.
The real question is, what is Tommy planning to do with his social media reality warping power? Originally, he talked about doing Eurovision to avenge his friends, or as some kind of ironic joke. I love the idea of having this in my Wikipedia. Like, imagine in the same year I release porno and then I dominate Eurovision. That's a pretty crazy year. But Tommy would not be the first artist who started as a Eurovision skeptic and then became a Eurovision believer. For instance, here's one of last year's Estonian Eurovision artists.
Ma olin mingil hetkel päris eitunud, võin tunnistada, et milleks mingi 3 minuti pärast selline energia, selline raha, selline hulk inimesi, milleks nagu sellist asja teha, veel niisuguse kahtlase kunstilise kvaliteediga.
But once Marco saw how passionate Eurovision fans can be, he was won over.
See fännikultuur, mis selle nähtuse ümber on nagu nii mõjuvõimas ja nii kolossaalne, et sellest ütleme, kitschist on saanud kämp minu jaoks ja ma teen nagu hea meelega kaasa selles pullis praegu.
And I think Tommy might be experiencing a similar road to Basel conversion.
Kas sa tõesti armastad Eurovisiooni?
Nüüd I do.
He seems like he's been having a genuinely good time. And in the interviews since his victory, Tommy doesn't have that sarcastic, too cool for school tone anymore. He seems to have a Joost Klein level of sincerity.
I'm really happy that I'm doing this and I can represent Estonia and do the best for my country.
And I think these two sides of Tommy are what the music video is representing. The brown-haired Tommy is scowling and combative. The post-it on his jacket reads, "Vote for Tommy." This is his selfish, cynical, trolling side. He's in it for himself. But the blonde-haired Tommy is friendly, humble, filled with love, love, peace, peace. His post-it reads, 12 points to Estonia. He's representing his country, which is something he hasn't always felt comfortable doing. After his merger, Tommy gives a friendly wave of thanks with one hand and then does a hostile chin-flicking gesture with the other hand. But look at his post-it now. It's changed to Winner of Eurovision 2025. The message seems to be that by embracing both sides of his personality, he can become something greater, like mixing coffee and milk. So here's the question the EBU should be asking. Is Tommy Cash still planning to demolish Eurovision? Or has he decided to demolish at Eurovision instead? As always, his answer seems to be, why not both? As another Tommy Cash once said, he doesn't walk the line. We'll see you next time. What is the secret of doing the Slav squat? I keep tipping over. Do you need to be wearing Adidas? Do you need to pronounce it Adidas?